Hi, I'm Scott Evans. I just want to give you a little background on what you're about to see here. I grew up with quite a bit of involvement in motorcycles, started riding around age 8. Eventually over the years, after a real love of road racing, I did a little road racing. I did some ice racing, some off-road riding, etc. At one point I even worked for a superbike team. Motorcycle road racing was my real love. And after years of working in the video and television production field, I created an opportunity to get out from behind the camera and get in front of the camera, and you can see some examples of that elsewhere on this YouTube channel. So around 2001, I had the opportunity to start taking equipment out on my own time on weekends and start creating a whole bunch of motorsports content with the intent of producing a show, at least a pilot of a show, for the cable network that I worked for. So throughout the year in 2001, amongst the offshore racing boats and the stock car racing, I had opportunity to go to the Toronto International Motorcycle Show and interview some fairly well-known individuals. All of this was in an effort to put together a show idea for the Rogers television network, which I called RPM, Rogers Performance Magazine. Unfortunately, they weren't so enthusiastic about the idea, and the show never came to fruition. However, I did keep all those tapes, and with my own equipment, years later, I was able to digitize that material, and now I can bring you some examples of that stuff that I did 14 years ago. That being said, if you're a fan of any sort of racing, you'll probably recognize the following gentlemen.
The main reason I'm here is Joe Rocket. Also the opportunity to stop by and do some stuff with Suzuki Canada. We're going to try and work together in some different projects during the year. My riding school, Michelle Mercier's riding school, just to come up and help with promotions. The Kevin Schwantz Suzuki School is just that. It's a school not to make racers out of people, not to make super great sport bike riders out of people, but it's to try and make safer, more alert, more aware, more responsive riders, street riders out of people. We teach it on a racetrack because that's where we have the controlled environment that we need, and of course the curriculum is based around what I learned racing. So I think anybody from any level of racer, from beginner street rider to expert level racer, maybe not the pro guys could learn anything, but for me it's about body position, weighting the foot pegs, just all the basics that a lot of people don't really think about when they're riding a street bike. All stuff that you might learn riding a dirt bike that's a little harder to figure out on the street. It's a 3-day package that we do that includes accommodations and a meal, big meal on Saturday night. We all sit down together and sit around and talk about whatever the people that come to the school want to talk about. It's 2 days, kind of like the basic package. A lot of it our sponsors are involved in. People from Suzuki, from Michelin Tires, from Joe Rocket Leathers, Arai, Alpine Star, Motul. Everybody stops in and gives a little spiel on their product and what to do to maximize the use of it, tire-wise, oil-wise, suspension-wise, Olean suspension. It's just a real thorough school. I work in the classroom all morning, help with the speaking part of it in the class, and then in the afternoon I'm on the bike on the racetrack the whole time, out there watching, looking, seeing what I see, helping people every chance I get. Yeah, Freddie's schools is a little bit different than ours. I haven't actually been to it, but like I said, I'm there all day, every day. Every day the school operates, I'm hands-on, trying to help as much as I possibly can. As a rider, I probably don't make the best instructor, but if I'm out there watching somebody, I can give you advice of what I see you doing right or see you doing wrong. We use video a little bit. We're going to use it even more this year. Last year was our first season, so we've gotten some things up and running that are working well. We wanted to make the program as smooth as we possibly could, and then we'll start trying to add all the little extra additions to it. '93 I won the championship. In '94 I was really hoping to be able to defend my title. The year started off bad, fell off, broke my arm on a mountain bike before the racing ever started. So, and then in '95 retired from the sport. Continued to stay affiliated with Suzuki. Have ventured off and pursued some NASCAR racing, some stuff in Australia. Basically, still just keeping my affiliation with bikes, but not really working in them. And after a few years away, start to miss the actual industry people themselves, all the people involved in motorcycle racing, what good people they are, and to come back and help Suzuki, still have an affiliation with them. They were big on the idea of that, yeah, they wanted to have a school. They really liked the facility at Road Atlanta. So it was just a real easy thing to put together. Well, I think more than anything, I needed something to get me away from motorcycling. Of course, I still love riding bikes, but I needed something to distract me from the possibility of getting back on one and going back racing. So I took up, I went to Australia and raced in some NASCAR series stuff over there. Their classes are a lot smaller, so it was a lot easier for me to qualify for races and get experience in race cars, whereas here in the States, the classes are so big. There's 70 or 80 people trying to qualify for a race that only 43 make, so it's not the easiest thing to get racetrack experience. And I came back here in '97, did a little racing in '98, couldn't find a sponsor, and things just such a buddy sport that unless you're willing to get in and go about through all the channels like you should, it's hard to get in and find a sponsor. My feeling is if you can get feel from super small contact patch like a motorcycle has, and you can get feedback from it, and you can be knowledgeable riding one, that an automobile, it's just going to take a little time. It's not like learning something completely all over again. What you do have to do is, motorcyclists seem to have a little less fear because they got so much steel around them. You have to work in it a little bit slower. The other thing is, it's so easy to ride a motorcycle and just move in the seat a little bit one side or the other and change your riding style to change how the bike handles. When you're in a car, you can change your line a little bit, but that's all you can do. You can't lean, you can't hang off, you can't do any of that other stuff. My parents owned a motorcycle dealership. So grew up around motorcycles. Both parents worked there. That's where I went when school finished. Worked there a little bit once I got older. So I really had a love for motorcycling, and when I wasn't working, would go ride my bike after school every day. Got a lucky break in '84. John Ulrich managed to get me a tryout with Yoshimura Suzuki, and from there, AMA Superbikes till '88. Grand Prix racing after that, winning the World Championship in '93. My parents' dealership was a Yamaha dealership. So, I rode FJ 600s and RZ 350s my first year in '83. Rode them a little bit in '84 and '85 again, just some top level races. But well, it's been a lot of comparisons between myself and Valentino Rossi's riding style. Of course, I'd like to think that I rode like that. I just wish I could have learned as quick as he has. Some of the other guys that I really like their style. I think they're good riders. Matt Mladen, Nicky Hayden. I think Tommy's a good rider. He's super smooth. He rides the wheels off that 600. He's just he struggled a little bit on his 750. But There's all kinds of young kids, up-and-comers, you know, Ben Spies, Hopkins. I think those guys both have big careers in front of them.
Well, I hope you enjoy watching that. It may be a little dry, I admit. I'm not able to afford to buy the rights to all the old racing footage that I would like to incorporate into that piece. Nonetheless, over the next 3 or 4 weeks, I'm going to include 3 or 4 other notable motorsports competitors. I hope you'll come back and watch my interviews with them. Cheers.